I have 10 o'clock, and so I want to welcome you to our third meeting of the testing task force for the state. My name's Tim Martin, and one of three of the chairs. And we want to first of all check and see who we have joining us by phone. If you would tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hi, this is Virginia Coleman in Ocean Springs.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. Dr. Potter is one of our co-chairs, and appreciate you being a part of this.
This is Kelly Riley. I'm calling in from Biloxi.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. She was on our subcommittee that will be doing some talking today.
And this is Christy Herbanis. I'm with the Foundation for Excellence in Education.
Okay. Okay. I think we have one other one that might be joining us. We're supposed to have a representative from Mississippi State University that might be helping us with our work today that might be joining us shortly. We'll start off, of course, with our... Hello?
This is Angela Robertson with Mississippi State. I don't know what I'm...
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. And please join in as needed if you at any point join in and help guide our discussion today. We'll start off with the department's vision and mission. We always want to make sure that we keep that first and foremost, and our work today does feed into that. The vision to create a world-class education system, and the mission to provide leadership through the development of policy and accountability systems. And the work of this task force feeds into that. Strategic plan goals. The department has 6 of those, and of course the work of this task force feeds into several of those different goals. Here are the 3 goals that we determined at our first meeting. To determine the types and quality amount of tests students take on the state and district level, to provide recommendations on ways to ensure student testing is streamlined, but that measures the learning goals designed by Mississippi teachers, and to discover and recommend best practices for student testing on the state and district level. And so those were our goals. We have our work to this date, just kind of give you a recap of where we have been. We developed a survey that went out to districts, and that went out in late September, early October, or late September, I believe. And I believe we have all of the districts that have responded. I don't know that we had 100%, but we had a very good sample of districts that responded to that. That data is being analyzed currently, and we will have results of that at our next meeting in January to look at and see from a district perspective what our stakeholders in the district level feel about those questions. And so today's agenda really is straightforward. We are wanting to discuss our proposed teacher survey and look at the questions that we would have on that survey to go out for teachers. We met before Thanksgiving, a subcommittee of people that from this task force that wanted to be on that subcommittee met, and we took the first survey that was sent out. We took questions from it and pulled and created a teacher survey. And so at today's meeting, what we'd like to do is go over those questions with the entire group. Those of you on the phone, I hope those were sent out by email. If you have those, you should have those before you. And we want to go through and let's wordsmith and clean up and try to get this survey ready to be sent out to teachers. At our last meeting, we had representatives from Mississippi State that we talked about the pros and cons of doing a statewide phone survey to teachers or an online survey. We talked about bias and pros and cons and different ways of doing that. And it was determined that since districts had emails for every teacher, that if we could do a universal survey and try to capture every teacher in the state that wanted to participate, that would be the best way to go. But we also determined that there were two types of teachers. There were teachers who were directly involved with the testing process. They're a subject area teacher, or they are a 3 through 8 language arts or math teacher that has direct impact on the testing. Or then you had teachers who were special teachers who were art and music and PE and foreign language and other teachers, or did not teach a core subject. And so we tried to develop in the subcommittee, we tried to develop really two tracks that this survey would go. If you were a non-core teacher, then it would be a shorter survey for you, but it would capture some of the same questions that we would have for the other parties. And if you were a core teacher, then your survey would be a little bit longer, not lengthy, but a little bit longer, because it would go into the different benchmark assessments that your district is using and asking some specific questions about those. And so with the committee's pleasure, I'd like to just, you've got copies before you, and like to just go through those questions one by one and do that. They're on the screen as well. Question number one just talks about, it was really just giving an overview of the survey. We took this straight from the first survey that went out. Inventory will catalog information about district or school mandated tests that all students in a grade took in a core academic subject in 2017-18. And you see there, we talked about the task force is focusing on district tests in this part of the survey because the number, type, and frequency of state tests is already cataloged, while little is known about the variation in district tests. And the survey is based on the student assessment inventory by Achieve. So this survey, the questions we pulled have been vetted, their reliability has been looked at, and it's been modified to best fit the Mississippi context. So you see there the next two bullets, the next two parts, we had, if you're a non-core content teacher, and we might need to clean this up so it's a little more clear. Choral music, elementary music, art, PE, foreign language, you will only complete the first part of the survey, and then if you're a core content, you would complete the entire survey, and it would stop after question 21. Do we need to clarify that in any way? Is that clear? If you were taking this survey, would that be clear to you?
Second bullet with a core content teacher, shouldn't it be like English, math, science, social study?
Yes, that's a misprint. It's just kind of read. So it needs to say 3 through 8 ELA, 3 through 8 math, 5th and 8th grade science. Yes.
Dr. Martin, can we just say if you're in a tested subject?
Well, we talked about that, but then, does that mean, okay, are we talking about kindergarten teachers who do MCAS, first grade and third grade teachers who do MCAS? I mean, we can incorporate those. That was a talking point. How is the best way to make this work? If we spell it out, then we're spelling out specifically who we want to take that second part. Do we want kindergarten and first grade teachers to take the? I mean, they're not giving benchmark assessments throughout the year. Maybe they are.
Distinguish instead of core and non-core, the
tested and non-tested.
State non-tested and state tested, state tested and non-state tested teachers.
That you're still, you
Correct.
have to decide if you want to include the K-2.
I think what we're talking about, the distinguishing factor, was we want the two groups to be teachers who are in state tested subject areas or content areas versus non-subject.
I think the survey lends itself to that because the rest of the survey questions talk about the different benchmark assessments. What company do you use? What do those look like? How do you get results? those things. So
Dr. Martin, if that's the case, then we'll also need to consider at your high schools, you're going to have, like your chemistry teacher and some of those people who would
AP,
be, AP, yeah, but
AP, US history, ACT, it's in the accountability model.
may have some high school teachers that would be considered core teachers that are not still a part of any type of testing that may be appropriate here in regards to benchmarking. So that'd be something to look at as well. Some of them won't have a need for those questions.
Oh, help me. We want to distinguish two different paths. And we just didn't think that we would get the kind of data we wanted to get from teachers that did not have a direct stake in a tested area by taking the entire survey, or we would have just had everybody take the entire survey. We thought that those teachers that didn't have a direct stake in it, there were certain questions that we thought were pertinent to them, and we wanted their input, but so how can we distinguish
Do you
that?
distinguish teachers teaching subjects that are covered under the Mississippi Academic Assessment Program? Which is 3 through 8, 5th, 8th, excuse me, 5th, 8th, and biology.
Hello?
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 Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is Angela Robertson. Whatever you decide, however you decide to determine the definition for the different kinds of teachers, I would recommend that be a question. Are you a non-core teacher? This is the definition. Or are you a core teacher? This is the definition. If you do it that way, and then you let them select at the very beginning, this is an online survey. So actually, we could program the survey so that if they check the non-core content, then they're only given certain questions.
Yeah.
So it can be programmed so that you don't have to worry about them following directions. If you only want a subset of questions to go to certain people, then make it a question and have the.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for that. That is kind of what we're attempting to do. This is question number 1, and it's really asking that question. We just need to define,
Yeah, we're coming up with a definition.
what those look like. The definition of
Core
and
tested,
non-core.
tested, core, non-core,
tested.
whatever, how you want to say it and how you want to define it. So with the survey is set up for state tested teachers, correct? Is that, that's what we're wanting to distinguish. That's the first decision I think we have to make, is that, or we want what two groups?
Right. What two groups? The two groups that we were thinking of, the subcommittee was thinking of, were teachers who were directly involved in the accountability system in state testing. And they would take, it was approximately 21 questions. Then a subgroup of them, that a much larger group, that are not directly involved in state testing, but we want their input on how that affects their classroom and their instruction and their questions there. But it's a smaller bank of questions.
We need to distinguish that definition to exclude the MCAS teachers, since they're not held under the accountability. So that's the defining. Now the other question
Definitely could be a yes or no question.
Right.
Yes, I am.
So that leads to the next question, which would be ACT, AP, which is under the acceleration component, ACT, which is under the college and career readiness component. Do we include those for high school teachers, or we exclude them also?
Included,
I think they're. If you look at when we look at the questions, you're going to see that those are not really going to apply to them as well.
So we need to 3 through 8, math and language arts.
Do we need to just spell it out?
Yeah, 5th,
explicitly.
5th, 8th, and
5th, 8th science, biology,
algebra 1,
English 2, and U.S. history.
3 through 8, math and language arts.
Dr. Martin.
Yes, sir.
I really, when I'm looking at this, I'm just trying to think about, teachers when they start to take this survey, and I think with the language of non-core and core, I think just be some ambiguity there.
Yeah,
I just think
well,
we should just say,
we can strike that out.
yeah, just tested and non-tested, because that's what teachers know, and then you can define it out like we got it, and I think that would fix any potential issues of teachers not knowing which category they should fall in.
Now, I want to make sure there was something mentioned about the online assessment automatically giving, once they determine which one they are, automatically giving one group 1 through 8 and the other the full survey. I don't know if it's the intent to have 2 separate surveys, as long as it'll aggregate. I think that's the intent, to aggregate
Those questions that are
1
similar.
through 8.
Yeah. Yes. Our partner Angela from Mississippi State. What the question is, the questions on the non-tested areas. Those 8 questions are the same questions as people who take the full 1 through 21. And we can match those questions together so that we get an aggregate of everybody, can we not?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm just saying that the system can program it so that you don't have to rely on the teacher to stop at question number 8. So if they mark that they're a non-core,
Yes.
a non-testing teacher, then the system, after they get to question 8, will say, thank you very much. If they mark the other one, it'll keep asking them questions. But the database will include everything. Will include all the questions, and then you'll also be able to tell, how many teachers identified as core versus non-core.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Question 2 there is just the district that they're from. Of course, the survey is going to come out from their district because the department does not have a database with every teacher's email. So the survey will go out from
Limited database.
Okay. So the survey will go out to district offices, and then the district will send it out to their teachers with a link to go to the survey, and then the results will come back to Mississippi State, and we appreciate their help and partnership with this. So they're going to identify their district. Then question 3, we had a lot of discussion. Yes, ma'am.
This is Kelly. I think we need to add the special schools to that list of districts.
Yes. The special schools need to be added. Yes. Thank you. Question 3, there was a lot of discussion in our subcommittee. The survey that went out to districts had a lot of distinguishing data here, and we talked about we're trying to make this as anonymous as possible. The teachers know that we kind of know who they are because we sent them a link to do it. But at the same time, it's their choice. It's still a voluntary choice for them to take the survey or not. But once they take the survey, in the instructions, this is not coming back. The results is not coming back to their district office for them to be able to track their teachers and what they said. None of that will be taking place. It'll be an anonymous survey. So basically, we didn't want to identify who the teacher was. We didn't want to identify their name, what grade they taught, anything. All we wanted is their grade or their subject that they taught. And that way we could, disaggregate the data by 3 through 8 or, subject area, those kinds of things. But we didn't want to have any distinguishing points to identify teachers. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Is that going to be kind of a type in, fill in the blank type? Because teachers teach in multiple grades and multiple subjects in some schools. How would you direct them to distinguish which they primary? Because you have some teachers that teach 4th grade math and science, that sort of thing.
Drop down or
A drop down and pick all that apply.
Something like that, yeah.
No.
I
We need to make that 2 separate questions.
think
Yes.
And instead of the computer being able to easily code it, humans will have to go back and read their answers. So I would recommend you give us a list of grades and classes, and then we can create a drop-down menu for you.
We can do that, and I think we would have pick all that apply, and then they would have that. Does that need to be broken out into two different questions, a grade and then a subject area?
Yes, sir. I would.
Okay.
I would.
To make that two
One for grade,
questions.
one for subject.
Okay. To make that two questions. Grade and then subject. Okay. So the next question 4 is redundant, should have been omitted. It's there again, so just mark that out. Question 5, 6, 7, and 8 on this first page are if the teacher chooses that they're not a core, not a tested area subject teacher. These are the questions they would answer. Question 5. Are you provided district state assessment results for the students that you teach? Yes or no? Question 6, if the answer to question 5 was yes, how do you use those results? And that would be, something that they would give us qualitative data to look at. Then question 7, as a classroom teacher, what are the greatest challenges that district testing poses for your daily classroom instruction? Rank in order of challenges posed, with 1 being greatest, 5 being least, and we listed 5 of from the survey, what we thought: time taken away from daily instruction, technology issues, stress for teachers and students, student motivation and engagement, and adequate resources. Crickets, that's good. Okay. And then question 8 was open-ended, qualitative for those teachers. Are there any other questions, concerns that you wish to share? And we know that might be very lengthy in some places, and that's good. We want to capture their qualitative data on that, and it'll take longer to analyze, but we wanted to give teachers their voice in this survey. And if you're a non-tested subject, you're done. Agreement? Okay. If you are a tested subject teacher, the next page, it would take you to another question 5, another path, and it goes through these questions. Select the name of the vendor-created assessment that the district used in 2017-2018 for all students in a particular grade or course. Do not include assessments created by the district using a vendor item bank. And they get to choose those different benchmark or assessments that they use in their classroom. Not that their school uses, but that they use. So do we need to, clarify that language there, because we're trying to get at what is pertinent to them. Not that their school uses, but that they personally as a teacher have been a part of.
I think it'd be valuable to say these include what you use, not just what the school district provides or requires, or
Help me add a sentence there to clarify that.
Right there, after that the district used, I think you need to change that to that you as a teacher used in 2017-18.
Please select the name of every vendor-created assessment that you personally used
in your classroom.
In your classroom.
I don't know if we need to know that it's implied that it's not coming from the district.
That capture what we want to capture.
Want to capture what the district and they used?
District survey.
We've got a district survey that's been completed, so we have that data from a district level. This is from the teacher, teacher point of view, and so we're really wanting to get their input on how it's affecting them. So if we change that to say, please select the name of every vendor-created assessment that you personally used.
I think so. For the in the 27 to 18 of our all students.
Okay.
And I don't think you need to put that in particular grade or course. I think you can just stop it there after students.
Okay. And so they check those. There's also an other that if that's not listed, they can list it in. And just like the former survey did, when that happens, then it's going to ask them, questions about those particular items, those particular benchmark assessments. So question 6, what grades of students take this assessment? They've just chosen. Okay, and so these questions are going to be, if they chose STAR Reading, STAR Math, Case 21, they're going to get these same questions on each one of those assessments. Does that make sense? That's how the first survey that went out, it looped it so that each assessment that was checked, it asked those questions. Do we think teachers will take the time to do that?
Is it essential that we have that question in there because we're already getting the grade they teach anyway? So we're asking which grade they teach. So therefore, if they teach third grade reading class, or English class or language arts class, whatever you want to call it. Does that make sense?
Yep. Is that question necessary?
I think with teachers especially, I think, with them, I won't say the shorter, but the brevity is going to be.
I agree.
Premium.
That's Angela, her thoughts.
Angela, do you see what I was...
Yes, I do, and I agree with the gentleman that brought it up. If you're already asking, if you're getting that information early on in the survey, I don't think you need to repeat it. Let's reduce the respondent burden.
Okay, so we'll omit number 6.
Did we ask in situations where they're teaching multiple grades? Was that addressing the earlier question, or did that give them the opportunity to share if they taught multiple?
Yeah, yes. The drop-down menus of which grades you select all that you apply.
I just want to make sure.
Okay. Number 7, how do you use that test? Diagnostic pre-test, progress monitoring, summative post-test, 9 weeks.
That one. I like
Okay.
that one. I think that's idle.
Question 8, are the results used as part of a student's grade? Yes or no? Question 9, what is the intended purpose of the assessment? Check all that apply. And there's actually an open-ended part there if there's something that's not listed. Stop me if I'm... Okay, question 10, who is expected to use the results of the assessment? Check all that apply. Teachers, administrators, both.
And
Why don't we put students
there?
there?
Students? Okay, let's add students. Question 11. To what degree do you as a teacher find this test or find it helpful? Find this assessment helpful? Find and then they have a Likert scale there.
I would venture to say that since we are we're asking teachers of the assessments that they're personally using in their class, not forced, basically, which it could encompass the ones from the district and from the school. I just would think that you could get a high opinion and very helpful if it's just the ones that they're personally. But we might need to go back to that question and say these are that you personally are using that include the ones from the school. And
I would surmise, and I don't know, the data will have to show us. I would think what's going to happen is teachers are going to feel more favorably toward the test that they personally give than they do toward the idea of testing in general and what everybody else is doing. But we'll see. Question 12, what mode of administration does the assessment require? And it gives them the option of computer-based, paper, pencil, oral, whatnot. What type of items are on the assessment? Selected response, constructed response, performance task. What's the length in minutes for the average administration of an assessment?
Is there a way that could be multiple choice?
Yes. Yes, we could.
Do you have some ideas already about how long tests are? Could you give them a choice from?
Yes, we can make that a drop-down menu. We could give them some times.
so like 0 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
11 to 20 minutes, that sort of thing. Yeah.
We can make that a drop-down menu very easily. 15, what common factors prolong test administration time for an individual student beyond the expected minutes of administration? Check all that apply. In what months do you use this assessment? Check all that apply. And then how frequently do you administer the test in terms of number of times of year? And you say that's a drop down there. Question 18, how many school days does it take you to test all of your students for one administration? And then question 19, how many school days must you wait to receive results after all students have been tested? Then question 20 and question 21 are the same as they were for the first group of teachers. As a classroom teacher, the greatest challenge, and there's a drop down, check all that apply, or it's Likert scale 1 through 5, rank those. And then 21 are any questions, concerns that you wish to share. Now here's my thought though. On the district survey that went out, this looped and did this on every different type of test. On this survey, do we want to do that for every different type of assessment, or do we just want to ask these questions one time as an overall picture?
I think the way the survey's set up is to do it for every assessment that they check. The way I read the question.
Is that going to make some teachers not complete the survey? They get into it and it's looped 2 or 3 times and they're going to say, forget this.
Dr. Martin, this is Kelly. I was sort of thinking that those last 2 questions were only asked at the end of the completion of the entire survey. I'm afraid we're going to lose teachers from participating if we ask it every time for each assessment.
I agree, the 20 and 21, but the other questions in between there, we could tailor make this survey to where they're generic questions asked one time of teachers about testing in general, and they only have to answer those questions once. Or are we going to make those specific and tied to each assessment?
I think looking at and knowing some of these assessments, how they're given, there's such a variety of how many times this, that, and the other. I think the data would be richer if you did it for every. And I know it's going to take some time, but I mean, at the end result, I think the important is to get rich data that we can make and look at and see exactly what the teacher's opinions of assessment and the different assessments are. So I think we need to address that maybe in the front end more, that and prepare them to say, hey, you're going to for every assessment you take, there's going to be so many questions that you need to answer. Your opinion about each one of these assessments is valuable, and we would like for you to be able to take the time to do that.
Other comments? This is a tremendous task that we're undertaking, but I think the data will be very, very useful, not just for our work, but to the department as a whole, and going forward, just to have that data, available for them to look at teacher input. So,
I would like to go back to question 10 just for a second, and my question is, do you think that parents might need to be added to that?
I agree. I do. That's a good call. That's a good.
What was that question?
Question 10, who is expected to use the results of the assessment? And it had check all that apply, and we had just listed teachers and administrators, but the recommendation was to add students, and then the last recommendation was to also add parents. Are there any questions that you feel strongly about that were left out, or any thoughts or ideas that we need to add to the survey to get at what we're asking teachers about? Are there any additions or ideas?
Need to ask their opinion as far as the frequency of testing, that sort of thing. If their opinion is that it's too frequent, too infrequent, that sort of thing. Hold their overall opinion of their assessments, both.
And if we ask that question, then we, I guess, differentiate between state assessment and local district assessment.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Ask a question about how they feel about the frequency.
Could we dovetail that into question 21 that both groups ask, where it says, "Are there any other questions, concerns you wish to share?" Could we reword that question to incorporate that idea?
I would rather you keep it separate.
Okay.
That kind of question is it's very easy to quantify. So you could have,
With a Likert scale,
more like a statement of, about the frequency of testing, and you could make it a Likert scale where 1 in is, let's just say it's a 7-point scale. So 1 in 7 would be way too much, 4 would be just right, and 1 would be not enough. That way it's a lot easier to quantify their ideas about the frequency of testing. Or you could do it the other way. You could make a statement that just says, our school district tests students, about the right amount of time, and then you could change it to a strongly agree, strongly disagree. Either way, but you get an idea of the range of feelings when you ask it that way rather than open-ended.
Be two separate, one with that Likert scale for state, and then a separate question regarding district level. Is that what you're saying?
I think we need to make that distinguishment, so that we have their opinion. I think this is gaining their opinion and giving them an opportunity to voice that opinion as far as their assessment practices.
Curious how we would use results from that, because that's, and maybe some other things are as well, but it's just so different from district to district,
right?
As far as the need for
I think you can disaggregate the data by district and give that back to the district administration to be able to.
Well, right.
I think it'd be
district,
powerful.
Yeah, the district can use it for sure. I meant as a state group. I don't know how we can use it.
Yeah, but I just think as this opportunity, we could provide some very powerful information for our districts to be able to make some decisions on the upcoming year as far as their assessment practices, and also that they can see what their teachers truly feel is being effective and not effective. that's why it goes back to answering all those questions about each one of the assessments so that districts can see which assessments their teachers feel and don't feel are valuable in that way.
That's information that'll get back to the district.
But as far as, what we do with it here, I don't know.
Does this question need to be centered around frequency, or does it need to be around value of my feelings toward,
I think it's
we test them about the right amount, not enough, too much?
My purpose in bringing it up was an opinion for the teachers to be able to specifically voice their opinion and how they feel about testing, and it might encompass frequency, or it might encompass usefulness or utility.
So help me wordsmith a question here. I like the idea, instead of a Likert scale, I like the idea of maybe having the statement and them saying strongly agree,
to strongly disagree.
Strongly disagree.
Scale,
yeah.
So,
and I don't know why that question is just striking me so much, but I don't know if there's a way to word it so that we are asking teachers to respond to it regarding their classroom and not their child's classroom, or
yes, their professional practice, their professional, in their classroom, not their own children or their
right, who might be in a different district or whatever. So. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into
question.
that.
I didn't need some time to kind of ponder what would be the best way to. Maybe we need to ask the expert from the university.
So we know we want another question, maybe between question 20 and 21, that deals with frequency, utility of use, those things about, a qualitative question on, do they feel that testing is being used in the proper manner in their district, or in their classroom, the test that they're taking.
Like, as a teacher, your current assessment practices are effective in engaging the learning of your student, something like that, of your classroom students. I don't know.
Well, but see that I'm gonna do, if I'm a classroom teacher, well, that's my testing, and this is district testing. I'm being forced to do.
And that's why I want to come in. I try to keep things simple because I'm a simple person. If I'm a teacher, there's no way I'm going to say what I'm doing in my classroom, which I have control over, is not effective.
Correct.
Because I'm in control of that. And if I'm in control, I'm going to give as many assessments that I deem necessary. I think the question needs to come from, and where all the issues come around from teachers is amount of district testing that they're taking. That is the question I think that needs to be delineated to a point where it's just asked up front and just straight up, how do you feel about the amount of district testing that's going on at your school? That's the real issue, because if I'm a teacher,
excellent.
I'm
point.
going to
Excellent point.
I'm going to feel what I'm doing is good. I'm also going to feel like the test that I'm doing is great, but I got maybe 3 benchmarks I have to do. I got some more different things I have to do. That's the real question that we're going to get to the meat of the whole issue, in my opinion.
So, we ask in question 16 what months they use this assessment. We ask in question 17 how frequently do they administer in terms of number of times per year. So we've already gotten the frequency question in there as far as the real number. So really what we're trying to get at is their feeling toward it.
Right. And do we want to do that for each assessment?
It's their perceptions of the frequency. Do they feel like it's just too good, or okay, just right, or I don't know if anybody would say we're not testing enough, but I think you are.
I don't think so.
Okay, and that a good question was just brought up. If we're asking this qualitative question, do we ask it about each specific assessment that's being given? So it's one of the looped questions that I might think STAR is great, but I don't think I don't want us to use CASE, or I don't want it, whatever it is. I'm just throwing. I'm not saying anything for or against anything, but they might have a favorite one that they feel favorable toward, and or is it testing in general?
This is Kelly. So I want to make the survey as efficient and time-friendly for teachers. I do think it's critical that we focus on the validity and quality and helpfulness of the data. So I almost think it might be helpful to have it as a question, particularly as it ties into our third goal of recommending best practices.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So basically then this question would not be to the entire group. This question would be limited to just the group that is taking this longer survey. So it would actually come before question 20. It would be a question that would be looped for every one of the assessments.
It needs to come after 17, and do you feel like this is an appropriate amount of time? 17 says how frequently.
How frequent do you administer? Then 18 is how many school days does it take for you to test?
So
19 is how many days you have to wait for students to be tested. So then after that one.
After 18, maybe? Do you feel like this is
after 19?
Okay.
How many days you have to wait for results? So this becomes the new 20. And so again, what does the question need to say?
Feel like this is an appropriate time to number of days of assessment, number of days. Simple yes or no. Do you feel this is an appropriate, effective use of the time? You know,
Or we can go back to a Likert scale where we could, have the range in regards to their feeling according to the appropriateness, maybe.
Yeah.
You feel that this assessment, because we're talking about each assessment, that this assessment is used effectively in your class, or is used effectively?
Or do you want to do it as a statement, as Angela suggested, and then give them a range? This is the right amount. Angela, you weigh in if it should be framed as a question or as a statement to react to.
What are you trying to get at? I mean, are you trying to get teachers' opinions about the amount of testing? Because there's going to be some testing. There has to be some testing, and they can rate which assessment tools they like best. But I thought part of this was to get at the overall picture. Are we testing too much? Are we spending too much of our time testing kids rather than educating kids? So what you could do is have a you could have a statement that says, I believe we're spending too much time testing kids and not enough time on education, and then it could be a strongly agree to strongly disagree, and then by making that Likert scale, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, then you have, it just gives you richer information rather than a simple yes, no.
Okay, but if you do that, then that's just a generalized question overall, and that could be asked to both groups. And that doesn't give you specific information about each type of assessment.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think you should do both. I think you should ask everybody their opinion on the amount of testing they're being asked to do, or the amount of testing, how it may impact even the teachers that aren't the core teachers. It may still impact them, and then they still have an opinion on it.
So do we ask specifically about each?
Y'all are going to have to tell me about the specific assessment.
So do you think it would be worthy of asking about each assessment so we can get an idea from, say, even if it's just from the district level, what teachers feel is effective and not effective? And then overall, do we feel like the assessment of all teachers overall feel the assessment practice?
I think I think you need both too. I think,
okay.
If you're talking about each specific assessment, So number 20 would say, do you feel that this assessment is utilized appropriately in your district?
Or is this assessment useful to make effective instructional decisions?
Okay, useful for.
Yeah, I would ask about, is it valuable?
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to know that the teacher believes that this specific instrument, that this tool they're using is valuable to them. Rather than using that word effective, because then if you say effective, then you've got to define effective at what?
You feel that this assessment is. You feel that this assessment is valuable to guide your daily instruction?
Your instructional practice.
Your instructional practice to.
Yeah, that sounds good. What on earth do you think about that? I mean, the idea is you're wanting the teacher's opinion.
And then you'll make a. So that's a question that just that group that took the subject area that will answer on each one of those assessments. Then we'll add a question for everybody that talks about their opinion on the usefulness of testing and frequency and not.
And if I may, I think it would be useful to add a question about if the teachers share his results with their students and if they use those to motivate, or if they put a lot of stress on their students about that. If they're around on the students, especially, a lot of pressure put on me, that worries me a lot.
That point's very well taken. We're just trying to see where that would fit in.
I was thinking maybe around maybe question 10 or 11.
Question 10.
After 11, maybe.
Yeah, question 10 talks about who's expected to use the results, and we added students and parents there.
Right.
I
think the question would best be worded like, how do the teachers use the results in terms of, do they share them with the students and project goals on
See, because look at question 11, task force members, we're talking about adding this question. To what degree do you as a teacher find this assessment helpful?
I think
and we've got a Likert scale there. So
I think we need to distinguish that this assessment,
Do we need that other question that we were talking about? That really gets at it.
Could you not add it to question 9 as another check all the apply?
What's the intended purpose of the assessment?
Add something along the lines of to motivate students, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the effort to be brief and not
hold on just 1 second.
Yeah, in the effort to not extend this any more, I think that's our best way to address that.
The suggestion was on question 9 to get at our student that's on the line with us, and we appreciate you being with us. His idea to add a box on question 9. What is the intended purpose of the assessment? Check all that apply. To add a box under enable students to earn a credit or credential. To add a box and say motivate students.
Yes.
Yes.
I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Okay. Dr. Potter?
Yes, this is, so given the, I guess the length of the survey now, I do think we need to add something at the beginning to tell teachers how long we anticipate it taking them to complete the survey so that they don't begin the survey. Think it's going to be a very quick process, and then it may be up to 30 minutes. I think we need to tell it on the front side so that they are able to allocate sufficient amount of time to start the survey.
I agree totally. I agree. because especially if they're a subject area tested teacher and have multiple benchmarks, it's probably, as a district, it took us about 45 minutes to do it, and I would think it's going to be 30 to 45 minutes for them to complete this as well, if they do it correctly. And that's a question, is that with all that we ask our teachers to do, is this something you think we'll get a good enough return rate on, or do we need to look at ways of shortening it?
I think this is such a topic that teachers are wanting to voice their opinion. I think that they're going
They'll
to
take the time to do it.
And especially if we can get, as superintendents, encouraging, not being
That they're not afraid of it.
Yes, that this is totally anonymous. We're wanting to get rich data from this, and that we're wanting to seek to make our assessment practices, not only from a state standpoint, from a district standpoint, more effective.
And I agree with that, but 45 minutes is almost an entire planning period.
I do understand that too.
Yeah, I agree. They can go away from it and come back before they submit it. So if we make that feature so that they can log out and it saves what they've done, and they can come back and complete it in another, that would be great as well.
I think we need to be sure to include that in the opening.
Yeah, in the opening part. Yes.
Well, I have a question because the bottom sentence says you may save and come back to the survey as needed, but you cannot go back to previous questions. You can only go back and pick up where you left off, correct?
That's the first survey that went out. That was the way. Mississippi State is going to do this survey, so I don't know how they can, if they can, they haven't programmed it yet to do that. Angela, what would that look like?
We can program it any way you want. So if you just tell us you want them to be able to go back, review, change their answers, or move forward. I mean, is there a reason you want them to go back and change their answers if they thought about it before?
No, I don't. I think for teachers, I would like for them to have the ability to go back and refine their answer if they need to.
May I advocate for adding one more question, please?
Surely.
As a social scientist, I'm always interested in some of the characteristics of the people answering the question. Would it be helpful to you to know how experienced the teacher is? In other words, how many years have they been teaching? Because we might get different answers depending on if they're a relatively new teacher or if they've been doing this a long time. I would be curious if the more experienced teachers, the ones that have been in the field a very long time, if their responses are different or not.
We had talked.
That's something of interest to you.
It is. We had talked about that at our subcommittee meeting, and we talked about we were the only thing that we were afraid of is teachers getting the idea of us getting information on them that their district could go back and figure out who they were. And so we wanted to try to make it as anonymous as possible. And so let's say if I'm a small district and I've only got 2 teachers who have 30 plus years experience, that was the mindset there. I think it would be very helpful for us to know that information. And if y'all think that teachers wouldn't be afraid of it and would be free to give it, I'm okay with it.
Make that question optional and just.
Well, I wouldn't share that with the district.
Right, I agree.
I would only share that information in the aggregated
Sure.
report.
I don't believe the district would do anything with it. The fear was teachers thinking that. It was not that it was going to be used that way, but teachers' mindsets of thinking, we were trying to take identification or anything that would identify them to their district. Not that the district was going to get the results, because the results are going to come to you and to this task force and in an aggregate fashion. But teachers thinking that, it might shy them away from taking the.
Will we get the information we need just by doing it in as options in 5-year increments? 1 to 5.
1 to 5,
6 to 10.
6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20. Would we get the same kind of idea?
That's plenty. Yeah. You
Okay.
don't have to have the exact amount. You want ranges.
Okay. So another question there for everybody in that first part. We've asked about their grade that they teach, their subject they teach, and then we say years of experience.
Grading subjects might not be optional, but maybe make the years of experience optional. If they, I know that's kind of invalidates some of the data reasoning for, being able to.
I think if you make it ranges, I think they'll be fine.
mhm.
I think if you make it
I do too.
ranges,
I just
they'll
was
be
trying
fine.
And if you
Yeah.
stress that it's going to be released in the aggregate rather than by district, I think that helps too. I don't know, Kelly, what do you think?
Well, I was sitting here thinking, I think it would be beneficial to add a unit to the opening here, stating that, the results will not be provided to districts because it's going to be reported to the task force in aggregate.
We will do that. I think that's very smart. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have a question. That's a little different because at the onset of the conversation, the comment was made that the results will be provided to districts because they strengthen their benchmark testing process and make sure that it was aligned based on the honest feedback of teachers. So now is that changing?
No, I think it will be given. I think the district will get the aggregate. I don't know. I don't know that we're going to break this down by district and let them know what their teachers did on this survey.
That was my misunderstanding. I said that, and that was my misunderstanding.
If I'm in a district, I think it's going to be more helpful to me to have the actual feedback from my district. I mean, the committee's got to decide what's the fine line there. But if I've got statewide aggregate data, it doesn't really tell me what my practices are like in my local.
Speaking from.
We can do both.
Okay.
We can produce. We can bring. What I meant was that the districts will not be given. What you could say is the districts will not be given any information that would allow them to identify the
Individual teachers.
link the teachers to their answers. So you wouldn't tell the district, you could say, well, teachers from your district completed the survey, but you wouldn't tell the district which their years of experience and the classes they taught, because then they could figure them out. That's all I meant. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but if you're in a smaller district, you can figure it out if you really wanted to who it was, because some schools only have one tested teacher in every subject. So if you do give that out, at the end of their smaller districts, you can figure out who gave you the responses. So that needs to be thought about.
It does need to be thought about because I know, Kelly, I know that your group and also, others, it's important that districts have this data, but at the same time, we want to protect our teachers. And
I think we're going to have a better participation rate if you get more valuable information and data if teachers have a comfort level that their administrator is not going to try to figure out who participated. So what
All right, and so the way you would do that is by giving the administrators aggregate level, so that the data would be aggregated at two levels. There would be the state, and then it would be aggregated to the district. And the report that goes to the district would not include any raw data or even aggregated data on which that would allow them to figure out which teachers answered in a certain way.
I think that would be very helpful. Yes, that makes perfect sense.
Clearly stated at the
It
beginning.
needs to be clearly stated at the beginning of the survey before they take it how that's going to be used.
Right.
And we'll have to wordsmith that out.
And I know that Joyce and I have already spoken, and we're both going to encourage, the members of our association to participate and encourage them, explain, this is your opportunity for your voice to be heard.
Very good. Any other questions or things that you think are we good to go with cleaning this up? What we'd like to do is clean this up, get all of our thoughts, and send it back out to the entire group so that you can have another look at it between now and our next meeting. And then at our next meeting, we will rubber stamp it, and then we're ready to send it out to Mississippi State to be sent out to the teachers. Okay, our next, we have 2 dates that we would like to present to you for our next meeting. And the reason those 2 dates are there, Dr. Wright could be available to join us again at our next meeting, January the 9th or January the 23rd. Which one of those work for the majority of people present here?
I know for me, January the 9th will work because during the week of the 23rd, I'll be out of town on a wrestling trip.
9th's good for me.
January 9th. That gets us a little earlier start, and then that gives us a little more work to do between now and then to get the survey, but I think we can do that. And then if we meet on the 9th, then hopefully we can have the survey ready to go out to teachers and maybe get that turned around by the end of February so that we have that data to share not only with this committee, but...
Angela, does that sound doable?
Yeah. Now, are you wanting to try to have a report to share with the legislature before they break? Or not?
Probably the 2 parts of the survey. We have the parts for the one that's the district input, and then this, if we can have that, yes. At least for our 2 chairs that are a part, of this committee. We have both the House and the Senate Chair of Education that are part of this task force, and we would like to be able to share, if we share the results to everyone, then they would have those results.
So give me a deadline. When would you want that? When do you have to have the written report? The final report.
Well, if we could come to an agreement on January the 9th on the finalized survey, and then how much time would it take you to operationalize a Word document, whatever, to program it to get ready to go out?
I'll have to talk to John Edwards and see where we are in the queue because they have other surveys. But once we get that survey, no, it won't take long. It won't take long at all. I don't want to give you. I mean, I'm guessing a week or less to get it programmed, and then we have to agree.
How many weeks to teachers? Yeah.
Because I'm not, my expertise is not education, so I can analyze the data, but to help interpret it, I would want to draft copies, circulate draft copies, and talk with y'all about that final report. So that's why I'm saying if you kind of give me what's the absolute drop dead you need to report, then I can back up and tell you if that's enough time.
My thought process would be if we meet on January the 9th, we can come to consensus on the survey. We get that survey to you. If that takes a week, then we're looking at the I don't have a calendar before me. The 9th is a Wednesday. Then we'd be looking at maybe the 18th for it being ready to go out to teachers. If it went out to teachers for 2 weeks, is 2 weeks enough? Or 3 weeks?
Yeah, it should. Well, we can look. That's one of the things that I know that John and his team do they'll actually send out a follow-up email.
Okay.
So there'll be an email, we'll wait, see how many people respond, then there'll be a second email, you know, there may need to be a third email, but,
Yeah. I'm of the opinion if
the response rate is
I'm of the opinion if you give them 3 weeks, they're going to wait to the third week to do it anyway. So if you give them 2 weeks, you know, that puts us at the end of January. So then we would have results hopefully by the first week of February. And then if it takes you, you know, 2 to 3 weeks to analyze and to do the data, so if we could have a report by the time we go home for spring break, which would be the second week of March, March the 8th.
okay.
March the 8th, that would be in time to get to the legislature and for them, whatever, and for this committee as well.
I think that's doable. That's very doable.
Okay? Well, thank you very much, Angela, for your help today, and thank you for those that were joining us by phone. Dr. Potter, we hope you'll be able to join us next time, and Rachel should be back with us at that point as well. Our next meeting on January the 9th, we'll do twofold. One, we'll be analyzing, looking at the data from the first district survey as a group, and then we'll also be coming to consensus on a finalized teacher survey to go out.
Martin, this is Kelly. Do we know the actual number of districts that ended up participating in the survey? I think the last time at our subcommittee meeting, we thought it was like 27. Is that right?
I think that number went
I think
much
it went
higher.
up, but I'll have to check with Rachel to be sure.
I know that number increased significantly, but I don't know that we had all 140 plus districts to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions or business, we'll adjourn. Thank you.